Shem Na'aseh v'natzliach, Shiur Torah, Bruchim Habayim. We are back here in our weekly Shiur, the IGGERET HAGRA. Tonight's Shiur will be for Ilui Nishmat Sarah Leah Bat Aryeh Hershel Chaim. And the Havdil also for a Refuah Shlema for Rabbanit Levana Bat Sarah, Rav Ephraim Ben Shulamit, Rabbanit Sarah Bat Anat, Avi Mori David Ben Esriya, Imi Morati Doris Bat Jora. Also for a Atzlacha Rabba for a Sylvia Eskayeda and Marsha Bat Julie, Ayla Bat Marsha, Samuel Ben Marsha, Cephas Ben Marsha, Alexander Ben Marsha, Louis Ben Marsha, Shaul Ben Farzane, and all of Am Yisrael and all of the righteous Noahides that continue to serve HaShem to the best of their abilities each and every day, growing and doing whatever they possibly can. As far as updates for you guys, we have BeEzrat HaShem, our event scheduled for March 23rd. I would love to see all of you, tens of thousands of people that watch our shurim from around the world attend this event. And although I know that may not happen, nothing is impossible, but I'd like to see all the people that can come. It's definitely worth it. It's a chizuk that's very necessary. These events are a enormous investment, monetary investment, and time and resources from our organization, and we want to make sure that it works. We want to make sure that it has an impact, and it's not just another YouTube video, simply because these events are supposed to give you that extra oomph that you're not able to get when you watch a shiur online. I know that people that have watched the the lectures over the years on the internet, Baruch HaShem, have changed their lives, have gotten closer to HaShem, have done a lot of really wonderful things. But I've heard this endless amount of times for those very same people that watched for years on the internet and then attended an event, whether it was the past events that we used to have or the this particular event that we've had this last several months. They simply tell me it's a world apart. There's nothing like a real live event. It's worth the few $100 ticket to get on a plane. Like some of the wonderful people I've been doing from Colorado, from Seattle, Texas, New York, Los Angeles. Plenty of people have come from different places, but really we would like even more people to come. Baruch HaShem, we have tens of thousands of people that watch our shurim on a regular basis, and it's definitely worth it for you to come to these events because it's the chizuk, the camaraderie, the meeting other like-minded people is priceless. And people always ask me, well, after the event, there is, I want to talk to you privately, how long do I have? Last event we had a very long line, Baruch HaShem. People wanted blessings, they wanted consulting, they want all types of things. It's of course all for free, and everybody wants their time. So the people that have the lesser need, get need less time. People that have more need get more time. But how much time do you have? Simply as much as you need. Where those types of events are dedicated to you guys, which means that we're there until we finish. And last time we were there until 4:30 in the morning. So the first event was a little over 2 o'clock in the morning. The second event 4:30 in the morning, and we're more than happy to continue doing it as long as it's worth it. As long as you guys actually make the effort to come and join us, because it's worth it. It's worth it to come and get the chizuk. Needless to say, for those people that are local or only a drive away, it's very much necessary to be part of it. So that's one. March 23rd, go to the website bhchizuk.org. bhchizuk.org. You could donate over there. You could sponsor the lecture, or you could just simply get some information of how to RSVP. Go to bhchizuk.org and do that, BeEzrat HaShem. So that's one. Second thing is the MaChatzit HaShekel and the three mitzvot that have to do with money for PURIM. Baruch Hashem, we see people have donated a little bit, and and are starting to get ready for the holiday. But I know that it's not even a fraction of the amount that people need to give. It's not even a matter of us needing to raise the money. It's a matter of people needing to give. This is the whole point of PURIM, is to get closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, not to wear costumes and get drunk like people think. So, and perhaps maybe we'll talk about costumes and where that even comes from, because you're not going to find it in the Gemara or in the Shulchan Aruch or any place that it's that you have to wear a costume, or even where the source is from. So that's something that's worthwhile learning, and BeEzrat HaShem will bring you a extraordinary chidush about costumes and where it comes from, having a lot to do with the topic at hand today, BeEzrat HaShem. The mitzvot are necessary. Everybody that has not given the MaChatzit HaShekel or the Matanot LaEvyonim, to feed the poor, these are very necessary mitzvot. You go to our website, bhpurim.org, bhpurim.org, and you're able to do those things. If you're feeling generous and you have the ability, you can give more than you need to. If you only have the minimum, then do the minimum. But needless to say, this is the mitzvot you need to do for PURIM. We're, Baruch Hashem, we've already committed to 3 times more than what we've raised, because there's just a lot of poor people. So BeEzrat Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will fulfill the promise that he says to Eov, Mi ekdimani v'ashalem. Who did me a favor first, and I'll pay him back. Meaning, this is how we've done it throughout all of the years. We make the commitments ahead of time, we pay for things ahead of time, and simply HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes it all work, because it's for his kids after all. And Baruch Hashem, it's also a constant test of our own emunah. So that's another thing. Anyone that hasn't given needs to give. In regards to those people that are concerned about, well, if I give now, how am I fulfilling the mitzvah? Because the halakha says that you're supposed to give to the poor on the day of PURIM. You're right. It's that's the way it's supposed to be, and that's the way we're doing it. It's just that we can't raise the money and give it to the poor on the same day. So we have to prepare ahead of time, which is what everybody that does this does. You raise the money ahead of time. You buy all of the food or prepare whatever the gift cards or whatever you're giving to the poor people, and you do it ahead of time. So that way, on the day of PURIM, you have different locations where the people come and pick it up. And like I said before, if they're not able to pick it up, then we simply deliver it to them. But this all requires a lot of preparation. So please go to the website, bhpurim.org. It's for your own sake, and it's also going to help poor Jewish people in Eretz Yisrael have a respectable holiday, BeEzrat Hashem. That's the second thing. There's a lot of big projects that we're working on. Of course, we're still trying to see what we can do in regards to getting a place. But anyone that has seen what our ambitions are and how much money we've raised, we're nowhere near. We're only 10% of the way there. We need to raise a lot of money in order to get a building, in order to do all the things that we want to. We still are very hopeful that it'll happen. But again, this is a reminder to everybody that when people want to give, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives them the way to give. And one of the things that we saw recently that reminded us what the people's ability to give is when they're motivated. It's what's happened with this whole Ukraine situation and Russia situation. Now, again, we've stated our opinion of what a Jew is supposed to think and how they're supposed to think in regards to this disastrous war that's happening between Russia and Ukraine. People should simply mind their business. But again, that doesn't mean don't help. It just means that, you should focus on what your role in the world is and not on politics. But one thing that we saw is that there is a enormous amount of money has been raised over the last several weeks to try to help the Ukrainian Jews flee the country. Now, the second that this whole thing happened, literally, there was like dozens of people starting campaigns and telling the world that they are raising money to help Ukrainian people. Now, again, we'd always like to think positively, but I've been around for long enough to know that these types of situations also are a stepping ground for the criminals that take advantage of people's emotions. And what we've seen is that literally millions and millions of dollars were raised with just a matter of a few days, over $10 million. I'm just talking about the Jewish world. I'm not talking about the rest of the world, which needless to say is much more. Just the Jewish world, literally over $10 million was raised by just a handful of campaigns within the first few days. And I'm sure a whole lot more has been raised since then. People felt generous, felt inspired, and they started giving. They're not giving $18, and they're not even giving, in many cases, $180. People literally gave thousands and thousands of dollars to go help the poor Jewish people that are living, under attack in Ukraine, and they feel like, oh, if I give it to this organization that has a campaign on one of the many popular campaign websites, surely it's going to get to the destination. Well, the truth is this, is that not all things are what they seem. And many times you see that there is a lot more behind the scenes. Many times you see a lot of corruption. Again, it's impossible for me to know who is corrupt and who is not, but I could assure you there's certainly corruption. I've lived long enough in this world and I've seen enough things in my life to know that there's an enormous amount of corruption, a lot of fraud out there where, number one, the most common is the people that raise the money, they take a very big fee. They take 30, 40% out of the money they raise simply as a so-called service fee for themselves. Now, according to Chachamim, especially what I've learned directly, from Arav Gidon ben Moshe, one of the Gedolei Ador, where the head Av Bedin of the business law in Yerushalayim. He said anyone that takes more than just a few percentage points, let's say max 5%, is gezel, he's stealing. It's considered stealing. But unfortunately today, taking 30, 40% commissions on money raised has become standard, even though the Torah forbids such a thing. And most people don't even realize that every $100 or $1,000 that you donated, 30, 40%, and in some cases 60% of it is never going to get to the destination. That in itself should make people think twice before they donate to places they simply don't know who the people are and what it really entails. It's I told you, if you want to donate, that's a very good thing. It's a very important thing, but you have to look at donations as a eternal investment. Eternal investment. When you invest into a stock, into a business that's a private business, into a piece of real estate, you do your research and you verify who, what, when, and how. Now, of course, if you're just donating small amount of money, $50, $100, whatever is not considered material for you, there's not enough time in a day to do research on who you're going to donate for this small amount of money. Just like you don't double check if the homeless guy is an alcoholic or not before you give him a few dollars. But if you're going to donate a significant amount of money, at least significant for, relatively speaking to you, you have to double check that you know where it's going. And if you don't know, don't give. Simple. Why? Because this is your eternal investment. Now, don't worry about, if I don't give, then maybe I'll get punished. No, you're not going to get punished for not giving for something that you don't know what it is. You'll get punished for giving for something that is corrupt. That you will get punished for. Why? Because the Chachamim teach us time and time again that we have to be very careful, so much so that Rabbi Nachman of Breslev, alav Shalom, says that someone that gives donations carelessly, where they just pretty much throw their money around to whatever it is without really checking or looking at anything, it's as if they're wasting seed, because they're wasting the the blessing that Hashem gave them. So it's important to know that just because there's a campaign, just because there's a letter and a picture, doesn't necessarily mean that you have enough information. And again, it all depends on how much you're giving. If you're giving a small amount of money, you can give it blindly. But if you're giving substantial amount of money, and I'm sure many people have given substantial amount of money, you don't raise $10 million in a couple of days from people giving $50. Many people gave a lot more. And this is a mistake unless you know who the people are and who's on the receiving end and what they're going to do with it. Now, of course, there is money needed for those things. I was in contact with a few people over the last several days, and unfortunately, people are making a fortune out of this situation. They're willing to risk their life, but they're also only doing it for a hefty price. Every bus, according to one person that I spoke to, where they're getting people out of Ukraine, is $40,000. $40,000 is what they're looking to pay for it. Some obviously are looking for much more than $40,000. Meaning, you have a bus and you're willing to take the ride to bring a bunch of people out of Ukraine, you'll get $40,000 or more. So again, that money, if it's getting to the right place, is going to pay for such things. Now that's a necessary cost if you want to save those lives. The problem is that not all of those campaigns are going to that. Some of those campaigns are simply going to line people's pockets. Now, when you see that how much corruption has happened in the donation world, you have to check yourself. Again, giving small amounts of money is one thing, but when you give substantial amount of money for it, you have to ask yourself, why are you giving a substantial amount of money? Is it really justified? Now, of course, the same goes when you're donating to different organizations that were not under the same circumstances. Whether it's a Torah organization, the yeshiva, kollel, kiruv organization, there's a certain amount of research that you need to do in order to make sure that your investments are going to the right place. Because out of all of the money that you generate in your life, the only real money that you have is the money that you're able to take with you to the eternal world. And that money is the money that you invest into Torah. That's the money that you could take with you. Money that you invested into buying yourself more iPhones and cars and houses and sandwiches, that's not coming with you. Okay, the real estate portfolio that you have is not coming with you. All of the things that people have, the material things, they're not coming with them. The only thing that's coming with you is the money that you actually invested into Torah. Now, if you invested into a Torah organization or someone that calls themselves a Torah organization, but in reality they teach heresy, in reality they get people further from Hashem, not closer to Hashem, then guess what? When you go up to Shemaim, you're going to be bankrupt. So it's important for you to know. Now, there's a certain amount of research you need to do. First and foremost, you have to do the simple things, and it all depends on how much you invest. But you have to do the simple things. I'm not telling people that they need to start becoming professional bookkeepers and investigative accountants in order to know what's happening. No, just first, things that anybody can do. First and foremost, who is behind this organization? Who are the people that are really behind this organization? Are they reliable? Are they people that bigger people vouch for? Do they have anybody vouching for them that's a reliable person, that's a well-known rabbi, well-known tzaddik, that is backing these people? Someone that obviously is backing them because he himself did a more thorough research and investigation. Is somebody backing this organization? That's something that you can find out very simply by going to the organization's website and see who is backing these people. That's one. And I'm not talking about, somebody that has a website and they have a bunch of logos on their website of different organizations they work with. That does not mean that those organizations are vouching for them. And needless to say, it doesn't even mean that those organizations even know that their logo is on their website. When someone is vouching for somebody, it usually means that they have written a letter of some kind, made a video of some kind, something that's more, that has some water to it, something that has some weight to it. Not just, I have this guy's picture and the logo there, that means they're behind us. And actually just means that you have a programmer that knows how to do that, which takes about 4 seconds. So you need to make sure that whoever is behind this organization is, number one, someone that has a decent reputation, but also someone that has a decent reputation that is backed by somebody else. That's one. That's very simple. You can do across the board. Number two, do you benefit from this organization yourself? Is there some type of benefit that you get from it? If it's a kollel, if it's a yeshiva, do you have any family members that attend it? Is it something that you learn from them, from their teachers, from their students? Do they send you the writings that they publish? Do you get any intrinsic benefit from them other than the so-called mitzvah? Why? Because the more you benefit from the organization directly, where you're seeing their material, their videos, their books, their write-ups, or whatever it is, that the more you know where the money is going. Now, of course, there are employees, and there are contractors, and programmers, and so on and so forth, and all of that, all of those lights need to be kept on. But again, what are those people generating? Are they just generating a nice website and a big annual event for people to eat for free? Or are they actually generating something for you, the one that's actually part owner of this organization? So are you getting a benefit out of it? Why is it important? Because the more you get a benefit out of it, the more of an obligation you have to help them continue. The less benefit you have, the less obligation you have, and in fact, the less reason you have to back those people. Why? Because, again, they may very well be doing something great, but your responsibility is first your own house. Your own house. Your own house doesn't only mean your parents, your kids. No, it also means how you're building your house. You're building your house after what? What teachings? From their books, from their literature, their videos, and so on. So if you're getting a lot of benefit from a certain organization, that has to be your top priority over other organizations that may very well be doing something good, but you don't necessarily have an intrinsic benefit in it. That's the second thing. Third thing is, has this organization been able to achieve their goals? Do they have any goals? Do they have any ambitions? Have they promised and delivered, or simply overpromised and underdelivered? Or they have no ambition? An organization with no ambition is an organization that will eventually disappear. So you have to make sure that wherever you're investing in, you are investing in a place that can bear fruit. Okay? Not just a place that just exists to pay some people's salaries. It can bear fruit. Why? Because if you are constantly investing in something and that something grows, your investment grows. Not just your continuous money that you're investing in, but rather your initial investment that ignited it. One of the smartest people that I know of, that's a public figure that recently was celebrated by Art Scroll, is Jerome Schottenstein, which alav shalom, that was bright enough to go after and see that the Talmud being translated to English with clear commentary to at least help people get the pshat. He invested behind Art Scroll, and it's been, I believe, 30 years since he left this world, but the entire DaFiomi world owes a huge debt to him, and he is literally getting a benefit out of every single English DaFiomi and many Hebrew DaFiomi sessions that are all over the world forever. Why? Because he's the one that funded something that many other people did not necessarily want to, didn't believe in, or whatever the case may be. He funded this thing, and he is literally dancing in heaven right now because of this investment. I don't know what he did with the rest of his life, but I can assure you he did a lot of good things. How do I know? I don't know anything about him, other than a little simple thing that I read, and I don't know much about him. But I know you don't get the merit to do such an enormous mitzvah that is like the modern day Shulchan Aruch, just because you have money. Many people have money, but very few of them ever get merit to do even a small mitzvah. The only thing that I could compare it to, as far as genius personally, is my father and my mother. Those are the smartest people I know in my life. How do I know? Why? They were alongside us, the biggest investors in the origination, in the foundation of BeEzrat Hashem. When no one knew who we were, Bechlal, there was no viewers, there was no watchers, there was no supporters, there was nothing, they backed us. Which means that until this day, every single book, every single shiur, every single anything that we come out with, every Talmid that does tshuva, every conversion goes to their merit, and BeEzrat Hashem, they'll continue to live 120 years to see all of it. But needless to say, what they're going to see in the eternal world. Now, of course, there are many others that continue to invest after them, and they also have a huge merit. And the bigger the investor, the bigger their merit. But the point being is that when somebody is investing in Torah, they have to make sure that they're investing in something that has the prospects of becoming something enormous. And that's the beautiful thing. When you want more Torah in the world and you prepare yourself spiritually to do so, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will make your way. Now, of course, this is not something that's only available for rich people. I'd say my parents, God bless them, they're not rich. But if they can give 1,000, if they can give 5,000, if they give 500, that's what they gave to keep us going, to keep us living. And the same thing goes with all of the other wonderful people that have been supportive of our organization over the years. Some more, some less. Some are here today, gone tomorrow. Some have been, stood the test of time and have been with us since the beginning, or at least for the last few years. The beautiful thing is, of all of those people that are investing in our organization, BeEzrat Hashem, is that they have much, much more merit from their donation in our organization than they could ever get from their own actions. Like, even if they learn the entire Shas every single year, and the entire Shulchan Aruch, and they're able to do a lot of mitzvot, it will never be as much as what they're earning on their continuous investments or past investments in what they made in our organizations that helped countless people do tshuva, countless people get closer to Hashem, many people convert to Judaism, will become righteous Noahites, and a lot of wonderful things. Baruch Hashem, we publish new books every single year, countless shiurim, we have thousands already online. Every one of those things is something that benefits those investors. From my perspective and from several really big Chachamim's perspective, this is not much different than what we see in Schuttenstein, in Art Scroll, that happened over the last 30 years, of how they literally transformed the Torah world. So smart people, when they invest their tzedakah money, they're not going to invest into something that could just benefit a handful of people. They're going to try to benefit as many people as possible. But again, bigger doesn't necessarily mean better. You have to look at what fruits can come out of this situation. So when you're investing in your tzedakah money, you have to make sure that you have reliable people that are being backed by somebody, that they have ambitions, that they can produce fruit. These are just some of the things that you could have the ability to check regardless of where you stand in life. Today with internet, you could literally find out, almost everything. Almost everything that you want to find out on the internet. It's not necessarily looking and analyzing financial statements that's going to tell you whether your investment in a Torah organization is good or not. It's really more about who are the people behind it, where's the money going, and so on. And that's one of the beautiful things. It's important for a person to get a direct benefit from whatever they're investing in because that connects them to it. But unfortunately, sometimes the ego gets in the way. The ego gets in the way, which is part of the topic today, which is it is the topic today. The ego gets in the way where people feel that many times, not all people, but many times people feel that if they are donating money, then in essence, they're entitled to something. They're entitled to a certain type of respect, honor. They're entitled to a certain amount of time from the people that are running this organization. They're entitled to, special privileges, put their name on a door, and all types of other stupid things that literally destroy their investment. And that's really what the Chachamim say in the Gemara, that somebody that gets their honor for their Torah investments, for their tzedakah in this world, is going to cry bitter tears in the world above when they're shown that they are showing up with a ticket that's already been used almost 100%. Now, it's if you get honor without doing anything, that's because HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to give you honor. But if you look for honor, if you look for that special attention, that special time, or whatever it is that people look for, then unfortunately you're using up your merits. And your merits are much, much more valuable in the world above. But this very same arrogance is what causes people to literally destroy their spiritual investment portfolio. It's almost like a spiritual suicide on the investment portfolio that people do. Where what happens is, and I've seen this time and time again, unfortunately, even well before I got into the Torah world and teaching and so on, where you literally see people that were blessed by HaShem to have a certain amount of money, and they go and they made the right decision initially to invest the money in the right organization, wherever that organization may be, whether it's BeEzrat HaShem or somebody else. But the key is they make the initial investment, they make a few more investments, and then they start expecting stuff. They expect you to pick up their phone call anytime they call, regardless of when and how and who. They expect a certain amount of time. They expect a certain amount of this and certain amount of that. And when they don't get it, they stop investing. Feeling like they've been betrayed, feeling like they've been disrespected, and simply looking for somebody else that will do it for them. They'll invest in somebody else, not because that somebody else is just as good, or even close to being as good, or even good at all, but rather because that somebody else, that other organization, is giving them the time of day that they want. And unfortunately, this is a spiritual, financial suicide. And what happens often. It happens often where if people don't get what they want, they simply abandon ship, and it's stupid, and it's sad. Not because the organization will not survive without them. HaShem will decide whether this organization survives with or without anybody. If he decides they'll have it, they'll have it. If he decides they won't have it, they won't have it, with or without anybody's investment. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has no shortage of money. Liya kesef v'liya zahav neum Hashem tzevaot. That's a verse in the Torah. Hashem says, mine is the money, mine is the gold. Says God, the master of legions. So whether the organization will or will not have funds, it's all decided by Hashem. This is also the reason of why I always cringe when I see how hard certain organizations push their people to donate, and they call and they show up at their houses and they call friends and they try to do all types of really silly things to push people to donate, and it's just not necessary. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants you to have it, you'll have it. You actually pushing more than just the basics is showing that you lack the tools to really manage such an organization that you're saying is doing the will of Hashem. Because the will of Hashem does not necessarily require you to go and abandon what you're good at and go and do something else. Unfortunately, many times some of these organizations are run by people that are simply good at one thing, which is raise money. That's it. They're not good at teaching. They're not good at helping. They're not good at anything else other than just simply raising money. And there's plenty of organizations like that where the people behind it, they're experts at milking people for money. They're experts at getting people to donate money. A lot of organizations are like that, synagogues and so on. They're experts at getting money. They can't do anything. There's some Rasha that's not far away from my house. He has already a place in this area for over 30 years. Okay? Over 30 years he has a place. Now he recently got over $6 million $6 million that he raised to go build even a bigger place with all types of other things, a school, a this, a that, all types of other things. Now he's been here for 30 years. He got over $6 million to build something even bigger. So now he has two things. And so you would think, okay, so this guy, he must be such a great teacher. He must have, I don't know, hundreds of people showing up at his synagogue every day, hundreds of kids showing up at his yeshiva, hundreds of people doing tshuva, doing chesed, doing great things. Well, you'd be wrong if you thought that. Why? Even a minyan of 10 people that keep Shabbat, he does not have. After over 30 years, he does not even have 10 people that observe Shabbat. And you'd say, oh, well, it's not his fault. Wrong. It is his fault. If you're so good at raising so many millions of dollars to build, then surely you have the ability to speak or communicate, convince people. How come you could only convince them at doing what you want them to do, which is give you more money, but you can't convince them in doing what HaShem obligates them to do, which is observe Shabbat? How come, all they can do is give you money? And there is a lot more to that story where really it's all because he doesn't actually care. If they observe Shabbat, if they observe anything, he simply cares if their check clears. Or if they could simply just wire the transfer so he doesn't have to wait with suspense to see if the check clears or not. And unfortunately, I've heard one too many stories of different people that attended it, a few people that had their kids go to that excuse of a school of his, and unfortunately the abuse, the horror stories, they can't all be fake. They can't all be fake. I met the person himself, I've spoken to the person himself, and I can assure you, this is a con man. Unfortunately, this type of con man is a dime a dozen. There are many of them. There are many people that are experts at raising money from a community of unaffiliated Jews, even Christian missionaries, and simply they're able to raise a ton of money from all those people, build a monstrosity of a building, but never even have a minyan, never have people that actually observe anything, and simply it's just to build and buy and all types of things. And it's simply a business. You do not want to donate to businesses. You want to donate for Torah. Now, it's important for you to see some type of results. Hence the reason of why I said you have to get some type of benefit from it. You have to connect to it. Unfortunately, many people don't really look into things that way. Or sometimes people make it too difficult, where they say, okay, you know what? I see what you're saying. I have to investigate. Fine. So I want to investigate everything. Can you send me every little thing that ever happened in the organization since the beginning of time? Every check that cleared, every financial report, every employee, every email. And you say to them, do me a favor. How much were you planning on donating? What, $100, $500? Okay, fine. Just tell me, what is your bank account? I'll give you the $500. Just leave me alone. Some people, they're coming just as investigative nosies. That's what they're coming. They're just coming to, be nosy, not because they really care. Or again, they ask for a lot more information than their investment warrants. If you're going to be investing hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars and you want to get access to, private information, books, and things of that nature, okay, there's a justifiable reason behind such a thing. It's just like if you were going to become a major shareholder in a major company, you should have special access to certain things. Now, but if you're investing small amount of money that may not even pay enough for a single employee's day's work, you have to obviously be realistic. You have to be realistic. So again, there are things that everybody can do. Everybody can do. Everybody can go to the organization's website and see who's behind it if you don't already know. See if somebody big, somebody holy backs the organization. It's very important to have something like that. Second thing is you have to see what kind of benefit you get out of this organization. If no one's backing it and you don't get any benefit out of it, there's no point of going to step number 3. If no one's backing it, but you benefit out of it, then you can continue to step number 3, because sometimes it's a new organization and no one's backing it yet. That's okay. But at the very least, you need to have something to benefit out of it, connected to it in some way. The other thing is, again, fruits. What kind of fruits does the organization, produce? Does it produce good fruits or fruits that are unknown and you're not even sure whether to say shakol or etz? You're not really sure what to do with it. So again, you have to make sure that, last but not least, don't ruin it yourself. Meaning, if you've already found something good, keep going. Don't look for anything in return. Don't look for phone calls. Don't look for special invitations. Look for it as, this is my investment portfolio for eternity. Once you start looking for other things, you are ruining it. Now, you may get other things, but don't look for them. When you look for them, you will actually ruin the investment, because it's only a matter of time before a good organization is not going to be able to meet your ridiculous demands, and you'll end up simply abandoning the investment and just ruining yourself. So this happens, this has happened, and unfortunately this will continue to happen. And it's important for everybody to just do the basics of what they can do. And remember, the most critical part of the donation has nothing to do with money or the organization. The most critical part of the donation, which is the fifth and final thing we'll talk about today as far as this, the most critical part is you. You are the most critical part. Not how much money you have, not how generous or stingy you are. No, none of those things. You meaning your actions. Why? Because the Torah promises us. The Torah promises us that megalgelin zchut al yedei zakai vechova al yedei chayav. That in heaven there's a bet din. There's a bet din that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has, and that bet din evaluates everyone. Now, when a person feels the desire to donate, that bet din in heaven decides what merit they have in order to justify who the receiving party will be. Which means, if they are wicked people, you can be assured their donations are not going to good organizations. They may go to a yeshiva, they may go to a kollel, they may go to a rabbi, but the yeshiva is going to be a yeshiva that creates off the derech kids. The kollel is going to be a kollel of batlanim, people that are just lazy and don't really learn. And the rabbi is going to be like an Ephraim or a Manis or a Meza or one of these heretics that is destroying society and anyone that falls victim into their own voice and hands. So a person that donates to such organizations, they're not only not getting a merit, they're getting punished for every single penny that they donated. Punished because they're partners in funding bad things. So, but when a person purifies themselves, person does tshuva, works on themselves, strives to be even better, constantly cries to HaShem that they want to get better, they're trying to get better, help me get better, they do whatever they can. In essence, they purify themselves. Then that very same Bet Din in Shamayim says, this person has purified himself. We have to make sure that merit goes to the meritorious. He has earned himself merit, and therefore his merit earns him to donate to something that's also meritorious. Good partnered with good. HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes the shidduch between the good person with the good entity that is going to receive it, whether it be a rabbi, organization, and so on. That's the key. When you purify yourself, you've made yourself better, you're striving to become even better, HaShem will partner you up with the best organization and place to donate. If you are finding yourself constantly donating to corrupt organizations, to money-hungry people that produce no good, to all types of things, you don't need to blame them. Blame yourself. Why? That's your merit. That's how you actually know how righteous you are. It's literally a live test of how righteous you are. If you're finding yourself that all the donation money that you've given has gone to corrupt organizations, corrupt rabbis, idol worshippers, heretics, and so on, that is in essence a report card from heaven. That's where you stand. If you're finding yourself that you're donating money to the good organization that produces fruit, produces Baalei Tshuva, tzaddikim, and tzaddikot, then guess what? That's your report card from Shamayim. Now, on the other hand, you want to go even deeper on a test? Fine. If you're donating to good organizations, but you only have the courage, the wherewithal, not wherewithal, the courage or just the desire to donate only a little bit. Like you want to donate a lot of it to something else. Maybe it be your local synagogue that everybody says hi to you. Maybe it be some homeless shelter that's local to you. To them, you'll give the $5 and the $50 and $100,000. But to the good organization, you'll give $500. That is also a report card showing that's your merit. To the stuff that's not necessarily great and in some cases bad, you have the desire to give a lot. To the good stuff, not so much. Why? Because you are not good so much. That's the report card. It's a real life test, a real life report card. A lot of people say to me, how do I know if HaShem is happy with me? Where do you donate your money? Now again, some people don't have the ability to donate a lot of people. That does not mean that they're bad. In fact, it's quite the contrary. It's not about the quantity of money, but rather the quantity of money relative to what you have. Which means if you're giving your 10% or even 20% of your income to the good organization, then that is a report card from Shamayim that you are doing great. You are doing great. If you find yourself not giving at all, you never have the time, you never have the ability to simply not give, or anytime you give it to some strange case of, I don't know, some crackhead friend of yours needs you to bail him out of jail, that's your tzedakah, then again, that is a report card from Shamayim. You have the merit to help a crackhead. That's it. I don't know, maybe you want to clap for yourself, maybe you want to cry for yourself, but that's your merit. But if you have the merit to go help a tzaddik, learn Torah all day in a kollel, and do all types of wonderful things, oh, good for you. Ashrecha v'tov lach. But unfortunately, the number four issue that I mentioned is something that ruins people. Arrogance ruins people. I've seen it with my own eyes, how people literally take their heaven, take their olam haba, that they are literally building one floor after another of good. They're putting on tefillin, they eat kosher, they learn, they do wonderful things, and they're investing good. And then one day, they don't get a phone call, or they don't get an invite, or they don't get whatever crazy thing is in their mind. And what do? That's it. I'm done with this. I'm going to go to somebody else that's going to it's going to call me every week. And it's going to kiss my feet. And now all of a sudden in heaven, all of the construction workers, all of the angels, they're waiting for the material. Whoa, what's going on? We're about to build the third floor already. Where's the material? And then Kadosh Baruch Hu says, I'm sorry. No, can't give you the material. Why? He's not paying for it. What do you mean? He's not giving tzedakah anymore? No, he gives tzedakah, but he's giving it to Manis. He's giving it to Menace. He's giving it to Gehenom. He's giving it to Kafakela. He's giving it to all types of garbage, and therefore there's no material to build the next part of the next world. In fact, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to them, if he continues this way, we're probably going to start making cuts and maybe even taking some floors away. So you have to make sure that you realize that the fifth part, you yourself, is the most critical part. And I'll tell you a personal thing. I know you guys like personal stuff. It brings things home. I'm a very open person with my personal life. And people ask questions, I give them answers. I don't have anything to hide, Baruch Hashem. One thing I can tell you, I've lived my life. I've made a fortune of money when I was on Wall Street and a lot of things. And I donated money when I was back then. I was always a person that liked to give. But I can assure you that with all of the tens of millions of dollars that went through my hands over the years, all of that, the amount of donations that I give today is countless times fold what I gave back then. And this is just a reality. Why? Not because I make more money or even a fraction of the money of what I made back then. Everybody knows I don't take a salary from the organization. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Baruch HaShem, Yishtabach Shemo La'ad, gives me the ability to give my 20% to the right place, to the right people, to the right thing. And it adds up, and it adds up, and it adds up. And it's unbelievable how these different things happen, and you constantly find yourself giving a substantial amount of money to the right place. And again, it's all relative. But that, even all that relative, whether it be 500 or 5,000, all of that relative accumulates over time. And when you do just basic math, basic calculation, you see, wait, how much did I donate this year? Wow, that's more money than I donated the year that I made $5 million. Wow, now again, you think, oh, he made $5 million. He must have donated $1 million. No, I didn't donate $1 million. It's people that make a lot of money don't necessarily donate a lot of money. And anyone that's fooled by the so-called billionaires of the Forbes 500 that donated everything that they have, they're not donating everything they have. It's just simply a financial scheme to avoid paying taxes. But that's a different story for a different time. When you find yourself constantly giving to the right people, to the right places, that is the best report card. It's a live report card of your spiritual status. And only you can ruin it. Only you can ruin it for yourself. And I've seen it with myself. Ups, downs, I see. Donations, ups, downs. Not income necessarily ups, downs, but donations, ups, downs. Difficulty, ups, downs. Tests, ups, downs. And you see how it affects you. You see how it affects you. And I know people that literally make a fortune. A fortune. I told you guys a story just a few weeks ago at the event. A guy that I know very, very well. Makes a lot of money. All types of things. Regular jobs, side jobs, all types of jobs, all types of investments. Baruch Hashem, young guy, has a lot of money. $18 I couldn't get out of the guy. $18 I couldn't get out of him. Why? He has zero merit. Now, if some homeless guy passes by him on his way to work, I'll give him $18. If some missionary pretending to be a Jew asks him for money, I'll give him $18. He may even give him $100. If some wicked apikos asks him for money, I'll give him even $1,000. But to the right place, zero merit. And it's so painful to see such a thing. You feel so bad for the person, but you know that you can't help them. The only person that can help them is themselves. The only person that can help them themselves, because you can do just so much for them. I'll tell you a story. Years ago, there was an extraordinary tzaddik named Rabbi Levi Yitzchak Miberdichov. Rabbi Levi Yitzchak Miberdichov was Kodesh Kodashim. He was the defender of Am Yisrael. Rebuked the people when it was necessary, but when it came to HaShem, prayed to HaShem on behalf of Am Yisrael, pleading innocent for the guilty. Now, there was one time, something that happened many, many times to Am Yisrael, unlike any other nation, that the Goyim decided to arrest a group of Jews that were practicing Judaism openly and in a fashion that was obviously hated by the idol worshippers, and they arrested them. And of course, in those days, arresting Jews means that if you don't bribe and you don't get them out of there, it's very likely they'll either spend the rest of their lives there or they're simply going to die there and they're going to kill them themselves. It's not like today where a person can commit the most heinous crime in the world and end up living in some type of hotel they call a prison in America for the next 50 years, where he gets lunch and dinner and workout and a lot of other things, and he simply has all of his expenses paid for, despite the fact that he just made the most heinous crimes under the sun. Now, these group of Jews were in prison. They needed to get out as soon as possible. Rabbi Levi Yitzchak Miberdichov came to the community and says, we have to raise money to get them out of there as soon as possible. Each one of us has to go from door to door, get money from the community. And that's what they did. It's a pidyon shvuim, it's a special mitzvah to release a Jew from prison. They went place to place, they got some money together, but not enough. Rabbi Levi Yitzchak Berdichev said to them, wait, this is not even half of the money. We need a lot more. Did you go to everyone? They said, yeah, Kvod Harav. Did you go to such and such? Yeah. Did you go to such and such? Yeah. Did you go to Shmuel? Everybody looked at the Rav. No. Why not? Why don't you go to Shmuel? No, Kvod Harav, we don't go to Shmuel. Nobody goes to Shmuel. Why don't you go to Shmuel? He says, Kvod Harav, because Shmuel, although he's very rich, has a lot of money, not only does he not give, but he tortures the people that come to him, making fun of them. And we already have enough issues. We didn't want to go there and just get insulted. Rabbi Levi Yitzchak Berdichev says to them, no, I want to go to him now. I want to go to him. Right now, come with me. And of course, when the Rav says, Kadosh, they got on the carriage, on the way to Shmuel, the rich, stingy, his palace. They got to the place, huge, enormous property. Eventually, after enough riding on the horses, even on his own property, they finally got to the door, and a few moments later, the butler opens, sees a bunch of religious Jews, and he has this smile, and he says, what are you doing here? Rabbi Levi Yitzchak Berdichev says, I want to see Shmuel. You want to see Shmuel? For what? What do you want to see Shmuel for? So we have a pidyon shvuim, we need tzedakah. So the butler says, Rabbi, don't you know? Shmuel doesn't give. He doesn't give. He says, I want to see Shmuel. He says, suit yourself, I warned you. So, a few moments later, Shmuel comes to the door. And he has an evil smile on his face. And Rabbi Levi Yitzchak Berdichev looks at him and he has a beautiful smile on his face. Ah, Shmuel, I heard so many good things about you. I want to tell you, we have a mitzvah, pidyon shvuim, to free these prisoners. It's a very important mitzvah, and we were sure that you, with your generous heart, will help us. Shmuel looks at the rabbi with his evil smile and says, sure, Rabbi, you came all the way here for me to help you. You heard good things about me, huh? No problem. Reaches into his pocket, grabs a equivalent of a penny. He goes, here you go, Rabbi. It's all yours. Rabbi Levi Yitzchak Berdichev takes the penny with two hands. Wow! Wow! Ishtabach Shimo La'ad! Look at that, Ribono Shel Olam! Look at the generosity! How beautiful! מי שברך אבותינו הקדושים אברהם יצחק ויעקב משה ואהרון, and he gives Shmuel the bracha. You're going to bless Shmuel with parnasa b'shefa, bריאות, הצלחה, רפואה שלמה, 5-minute blessing. Shmuel doesn't even know what to do with himself. He has never heard a single blessing on himself in his life, needless to say, for the things that he's done. And he sees this holy rabbi cry out a blessing, saying a blessing that literally makes him tear for giving a penny. And he's so baffled by this that his ego loosens up a little bit, and he says to the rabbi, Rabbi, you like that penny? Rabbi says, of course, Shmuel, I didn't know you're going to be so generous with us. HaShem bless you. And he goes into another blessing. Shmuel says, Rabbi, you want another penny? Rabbi Levi Yitzchak Berdichev says, you do that for me? You would help us that much? Shmuel says, sure, Rabbi, for you. He goes into his pocket, takes another penny. He goes, here you go, Rabbi. Rabbi Levi Yitzchak Berdichov, with the same passion, takes both pennies, looks at the Shamayim and says, Mi sheberach avotenu hakdoshim, Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Moshe, Yaron. He gives them a blessing, and another blessing, another blessing, another blessing. Shmuel doesn't know what to do with himself. He has never heard anybody bless him. He's never heard anybody compliment him. Needless to say, with full devotion, like this holy rabbi in front of him is doing for just 2 pennies. He's so enamored by this. He says to the people with him, how much do you need for this, to help these people? They say to him, we need about 50,000. That's what you need to free them? Yeah. 1 second. He goes into his house, takes 50,000, he goes, here you go. Take the whole thing. And Rabbi Levi Yitzchak Berdichov gives him a blessing with the same level of passion as he did the first 2 blessings. The guy is as happy as can be, going from 2 pennies to giving the whole thing. Of course, the students have no idea what just hit them. What just happened here? How did this happen? For years, people have tried to get anything out of this guy, and he would never give anything more than a conniving penny and making fun of the person. Now he gave the whole thing. As soon as they got back into the carriage, they said, Kvod Rav, so you do have Ruach HaKodesh. Rabbi Levi Yitzchak Berdichov says, I don't have Ruach HaKodesh. No. I knew that this is good to do. No, but Rabbi, how did you know? How did you know? He says, I didn't know, but I knew. I'll explain. You see, when I came to him and I asked him, and I saw how hard it is for him to give even a penny. To give a penny. How hard it was for him to give a penny. And he gave it to me. I knew that in my hand I had half of his Yetzer Hara. And for that I had so much happiness that already in 1 penny I took half of his Yetzer Hara. And when he gave me the 2nd penny, I knew I had his entire Yetzer Hara. And then you saw what happens when he has no more Yetzer Hara. From now on, Shmuel will give you all you need. And that's what happened. Sometimes, Rabotai, a person has an evil inclination, a Yetzer Hara, where they do not want to give. They don't have the desire to give to the right place. And it's important for them to work on themselves, to break their own flaws in order to earn the merit to give to the right place. But as the Chachamim teach us in the commentary on Proverbs, in chapter 22, in the 6th proverb, in the in the 22nd proverb, in the 6th verse, Chachamim teach us that arrogance is the primary obstacle to recognizing Hashem, such that a person finds it hard to acknowledge that his abilities are gifts of Hashem. What he has is from Hashem, because such awareness would impinge upon his sense of self-importance. Meaning that the biggest obstacle that is between us and serving Hashem to the best of our abilities, the most amount of generosity, the best prayers, the best learning, the best dedication, is our own arrogance. And many times, one of the things that I see with people that are very loud and obnoxious about their disbeliefs in the Torah and in God is that really the root of all of it is arrogance. Where that arrogance that they have does not allow them to recognize their ignorance. Where they are so arrogant, they're certain that they know everything there is to know in order to conclude the wrong conclusion that they're concluding, which is that you don't need to believe in God, or there is no God, chas v'shalom, or that the Torah is not from heaven, or all types of other warped beliefs. They have a huge amount of ignorance. They have no clue what they're talking about. But their arrogance makes them think that they do know what they're talking about. And it's the very same arrogance that gets in the way of their avodat Hashem. Because it literally keeps them ignorant of what the truth is. This is why the Gaon Mivilna, in his IGGERET HAGRA, has told his family and thereby us time and time again how important it is to work on our character traits, make sure that we eliminate all of the flaws we have, the ones that we know of, and pray for us to have the merit for HaShem to uncover the flaws that we don't know we have, but we actually do have. And he says that all of this instructions to read Musar, to work on yourself, to not have idle talk, not have foul things come out of your mouth, all types of foul language, not to say lashon hara chas v'shalom, all of the horrible things that happen to people that waste their time, that don't learn Torah, that don't fulfill mitzvot. All of these different warnings he's telling his wife, he's telling his mother, he's telling his kids. And then last week, he's saying, this is also pertaining to my son-in-law. Who is the son-in-law? Son-in-law is a Talmid Chacham. Son-in-law is a person that learns Torah all day. He says, this is for him. I also appeal to my son-in-law to adhere to all of the above, that he read this letter to the children as I have stated, and that his learning should be for the sake of heaven. Why would he have to address his son-in-law separately? Why not just include it under the whole family? Why not just assume that he's going to understand it? Because sometimes when a person is learning Torah, the Yetzer Hara pretends to be a Yetzer Hara Tov. The evil inclination pretends to be a good inclination. The good inclination says you need to have confidence in order to reach higher levels, right? So learn, you're learning. So pat yourself on the back. You're learning a lot. So what he's talking about, what the Gaon Mivilna is talking about, rebuking, idle talk, waste of time, learn Musar, all those things, he's not referring to you. Because you're already learning, you're already good. This doesn't have anything to do with you. The Rabbi respects you. Deluding the person to think that they are more righteous than what they are, and they don't need to learn more, they don't need to work more, that just because they have some knowledge in Torah, and even a lot of knowledge, they have so-called graduated their need for and all of the classes necessary to be a Baal Musar, to be someone that is ethical, and they graduate, they already know enough. Hence the reason why the Gaon Mivilna makes an exception to make sure that since the son-in-law that learns Torah has a different Yetzer Hara than the rest of the family due to his learning Torah, as the Gemara in Masechet Sukkah says that the greater a person is in Torah, the bigger his Yetzer Hara is, the bigger his evil inclination is. So he has to be mentioned separately. So he doesn't delude himself to think that this doesn't pertain to him. And of course, it also pertains to his need to teach this also, that just because he learns Torah, not only does he need to also do tshuva and work on himself, but he also needs to understand that his kids also need it. Because just because he is learning doesn't mean that his kids will naturally follow suit. There's no end to the tragic stories of fathers that were learning a lot of Torah, and even in cases, rabbis, big rabbis. And their kids went off the derech and became complete heretics. And we're not just talking about in today's generation, we're talking about even in previous generations. Some of the great sages of the previous generation had children that went completely off, some for part of their life, some for their entire lives. In their honor, I'm not going to mention their names, even though it's all public information, but the point is that there is an endless amount of tragic stories where you have chachamim that toiled in Torah, but their kids not only didn't, but they went the complete opposite direction. Even in some cases, converted to idolatry, to Christianity. And of course, the Christian heretics, the idol worshippers, use those cases as if this is the proof for their idolatry. Look, even Rabbi such and such son, he converted to Christianity. Doesn't that show that it's legit? No, it just shows that he's an idiot just like you guys. That's all it means. He's an idol worshiper and you're an idol worshiper. That's all it means. The father is still holy. It's not he's not his son, and his son is not his father. Each person is himself. Even we have Torah proofs for that. The Yitzhak Avinu was the Gdol Ador. His father Avraham Avinu was the Gdol Ador. His son Yaakov was Gdol Ador, all tzaddikim kedoshim. But you also have Esav and Ishmael in the mix, where even though they had siblings and parents and grandparents that were the most righteous people on earth, still Ishmael and Esav were Reshaim. So the father is not always the son, and the son is not necessarily always the father. So the Gaon Vilna reminds his son-in-law that you have to make sure that you do not sit there and think that just because you're learning Torah and you know a certain amount, you are this is not for you. This is for you. And he makes a special section just for him. And furthermore, he says, for heaven's sake, meaning he's pleading with the heavens, for heaven's sake, become well versed in this Torah study for its own sake. Meaning, make sure that whatever you're studying, you're not studying because you're looking to win debates, or you're looking to show people that you know more, or you're looking to make money out of it. No, study Torah for the Torah's sake. For heaven's sake, that's it. That's why you have to do it. Because that's the key. That's what's going to save you. For heaven's sake, become well versed in this Torah for its sake. Meaning, not only learn Torah, but invest everything to become the biggest expert in Torah. Where you could say, listen, I learn for lishma. I learn for heaven's sake, 15 minutes a day. Great, you learn 15 minutes a day, but it's doubtful it's really for heaven's sake. But even if it is, it's not exactly the greatest thing. Why? Because if you really were doing it for heaven's sake, then you would do a lot more effort, a lot more time. And that's in essence what the Gaon Vilna is asking from his and pleading with his son-in-law, that not only study Torah for heaven's sake, but study all of it. Put everything into it for heaven's sake. Put all of your resources just for the sake of heaven. Learn in order to do. Don't just learn in order to argue or learn in order to do anything else that would benefit you. Learn in order to do the will of HaShem. That's what some Chachamim say is the definition of learning for the sake of heaven. Now, he continues and then he says, and don't pay attention to those who say that it's unnecessary for the child, God forbid. To the contrary, we have a proverb that says, train a youth, chanoch al-na'ar al-pi darko, that train a youth in accordance to his ways, which we'll elaborate on in a moment. What does it mean in accordance to his ways? Don't pay attention to those who say that it's unnecessary for the child. God forbid such a thing. To the contrary, because it's easier to remove the peel of an unripe nut before it hardens into a shell. And most importantly, it's through such study for its own sake, for heaven's sake, that one ends up meriting everything. As our sages stated in the Mishnah in Avot, in the sixth section, the first Mishnah, Rabbi Meir Baal HaNes says, whoever studies Torah for its own sake merits many things. And furthermore, the whole world is worthwhile for his sake alone. Meaning that a person that studies Torah for the sake of heaven merits a lot of things, a lot of great things, but one of the things that they also need to know is that it was worth it for HaShem to create the world just for them. What does that mean? When you think about it, all of the wars, all of the death, the murder, the rape, the heresy, idol worship, blasphemy against Hashem, all of the disbelievers, all of the people going against Hashem, going to war against Hashem and His Torah, desecrating His Torah, changing things, distorting things, killing each other, hurting each other in different ways, stealing, robbing, all of the horrible things, the destruction, all of that has happened over the last nearly 6,000 years is worth it for Hashem to have for a single person learning Torah for heaven's sake. With a pure heart, not asking for anything in return, but rather learning Torah in order to fulfill it. Learning Torah in order to connect to Hashem in a deeper and deeper level. Learning Torah for the sake of heaven. All of that agony of our Father in heaven, if you will, seeing His children and His creations go against Him, seeing His creations go and murder His chosen people, His firstborn sons, seeing His world go upside down, where the gifts that He gives and the blessings that He gives His own people are used against Him. All of that pain for the Father in heaven that we have, Yishtabach Shemo La'ad, Hashem says it's worth it for me to go through all of that, because one day I'm going to have you that's learning all day for the sake of heaven. This is not something that's truly understandable or comprehensible by a human being. To have such love, commitment for something is impossible for us to understand. But Chachamim explained to us that the perspective that a person has is not, it's a conclusion. It's something that builds up. It's something that builds up, and it's stepping stones. Now, when we analyze this section of the letter, we're going to arrive at several different stepping stones. Several different things that the Gaon Vilna highlighted here. Each one can be discussed until the end of the world. But we'll try to elaborate on each thing to see how much we can apply to our own lives, how much already applies to our life. Where the Chachamim say that first and foremost, like I said, he's highlighting his son-in-law that's already a Torah scholar. He's highlighting him separately from the rest of the family because it's the natural human inclination to think that they're doing enough if they're already on the right path. But he says that they have to get stronger. And there are certain things that will get in the way. One of those things are people who say that it's unnecessary. It's unnecessary for you to spend time with your son or daughter and teach them Torah, let them go to school, let them learn when they're a little older. You don't need to be so stringent. Let them go play, let them go have fun. That's the attitude of people, not just today, but throughout history. But the Gaon Vilna says that this will be a mistake, because the peel of a nut is still an unripe green. When it's still unripe green, it's easily removed. And once it ripens, it's much harder to remove. The same is with a person. If a person in his youth, childhood especially, is taught to remove all of the distractions that would interfere with learning Torah for its own sake, such study will remain effortless for him throughout the rest of his life. But if he doesn't accustom himself, and as the Gaon Vilna said, train himself to eliminate the distractions that interfere with his learning Torah for the sake of heaven, if he doesn't do it at a young age, it will become much more difficult to remove those very same distractions as he gets older. Rabbi Chaim Volozhin writes in his Sefer Nefesh HaChaim that learning Torah for the sake of heaven is one of the ways that a person could destroy their arrogance, which is as we heard earlier, is the biggest wall that separates us from our servitude of Hashem, arrogance. Because when a person is learning Torah for the sake of heaven, he's learning Torah in order to do it. He's learning Torah in order to do it. Not in order to argue, not in order to debate, not in order to prove that he's smarter, but in order to fulfill the will of Hashem. Fulfilling the will of Hashem by fulfilling the mitzvot, fulfill the will of Hashem by sharing that Torah, fulfill the will of Hashem by helping people do tshuva, fulfill the will of Hashem by teaching his kids. That's the will of Hashem. Not because he's looking for some plaque on the wall. When a person learns Torah that way, he is quickly chipping at the arrogance that is actually ruining his servitude of Hashem, and also ruining and dirtying the vessel that is his neshama, that is where he's supposed to get the blessings of the Torah. Whether those blessings are more money, zivug, good health, or more Torah. The cleaner the vessel, the more pure the vessel, the more Hashem gives him more Torah and more blessings. But when a person has an agenda, such as he wants to debate, that in itself becomes a problem. This is why several times when I've noticed that some people come to me, or they call themselves my students, or they want to be my students, or they simply just watch our lectures and they want to ask me questions, and I see that they have an affinity to debating Christians, and they want to be a rabbi that debates Christians. They want to be like Rav Tovia Singer Sheikhye. And each time I've seen exactly the very same people, if they didn't listen to the advice that I gave them of not doing it, don't learn Torah in order to become a counter-missionary. Don't learn Torah in order to debate anybody. Learn Torah for the sake of learning Torah. If they got that advice and didn't listen, many times, not only did they not become good at being an anti-missionary, but many times they ended up abandoning altogether. Why? Because if you're learning for the sake of becoming an anti-missionary, or better yet, you are learning Torah because you want to be a Mashiach expert. There's a bunch of Mashiach experts. People that all day, they watch anything, any lecture that has anything to do with Mashiach. That's what they go. They go on Google. Google doesn't even have to wait for them to type. YouTube doesn't even have to wait for them to type. They already get suggested any video out there that has the word Mashiach in it. And every day they have a whole slew of videos and write-ups to discuss, Mashiach is going to come this time, get ready, the world's going to end, the war, this is a third war, and remember, it's going to be this, and it's going to be that, and everything's going to explode, and they're fascinated with Mashiach, they're addicted with Mashiach, and it's all going to end. And they tell everybody, listen, you got to move to Israel right now. America is Gog. America is Magog. Russia is. The world's going to end. You got to move to Israel. Everything's going to be, destroyed. And sometimes these people are rabbis. Many times they're rabbis. And all they do is scare people into doing things that they wouldn't do otherwise, in such a way that they themselves don't even know why they're doing it. And they become an expert in Mashiach that tortures people and telling them that the time is now, and without really having the ability and the know-how of telling them how to prepare for this so-called now time. Unfortunately, Chabad has been one of the organizations that has held the banner of this whole Mashiach now movement, and many of Chachmei Israel have been against it anytime they were given a chance to talk about it. Now, although Chabad doesn't often mention the Mashiach coming in the same way like the prophets say the Mashiach is going to come, where there's going to be a war, just like the Gemara says there's going to be a war in many places where there has to be a war in order for Mashiach to come. There's destruction prophesied by HaShekel, by Zechariah. They don't usually talk about this. Sometimes you'll hear it here and there, but generally speaking, the Mashiach that Chabad teaches about is how many times they say the Rabbi, the Alav Shalom, is the Mashiach, and he's going to come, and that's going to bring the salvation to the world, and blah, blah, blah. And it's a different type of Mashiach than what's taught. And they tell people that since Mashiach is going to come, and we should all pray for Mashiach to come right now, but really never giving people the tools of preparing for this Mashiach, and sometimes even, more often than not, giving people the feeling like they're actually ready for Mashiach. It's actually no different from the fearmongers that tell people, listen, the world is going to end, Russia is going to go to war with America, and America is going to go to war with Russia, and everybody's going to go to war with Iran, and everything, blah, 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 and all these different things, and everything's going to end, there's going to be a lot of explosions, and you have to move to Israel because Mashiach is coming. And in reality, the topic is interesting. We've spoken about it a few times over the years as well. But we've also spoken about countless other things. But there are certain people that what they teach, and therefore many of their students, all they learn and all they're trained to learn is that the world's going to end, Mashiach's going to come, and he's going to solve all the problems, and for some reason or another, they're going to be saved too, because they decide to move houses, or because they are watching a bunch of Mashiach videos. And there's really not much that is worse than such teachings. Because while it is true that Mashiach will come, and it is true that the time is near, and it is true that there will be a war, it's not necessarily true that any of us can assume that we'll be saved. Because in order to be saved, you have to prepare yourself. And moving houses is not enough. Watching Mashiach lectures is not enough. But unfortunately, there are many people that's what they do. Just today, or yesterday, I'm losing track of time, someone sent me a whole brand new video from some rabbi in Israel. Literally, every single lecture. That's all he talks about, Mashiach. And now he came out with a new announcement to all of the Jews that are living in America. Move right now to Israel, because by next week Mashiach is coming, and the war is going to blow up, and it's the end. Don't say you weren't warned. Now, such a person, if I had any real position of power, I would make sure this person is never allowed to speak in public again. Why? Because it's an irresponsible message. Say Mashiach's coming, no problem. Say that there is a lot of problems in the world, no problem. But to go tell people, go move to Israel and that's your solution, it's simply not true. No source in the Torah says such a thing. What the Torah says is that Uba leTzion Goel leshaveh pesha b'Yaakov. That the Goel, the Mashiach, will come and bring salvation to who? To the people that used to be criminals but have done tshuva, meaning that the whole point of teaching Mashiach is in order to entice people to change their ways. And what ends up happening is that when people teach this way, and thereby people learn this way, where their whole purpose of learning Torah is for the sake of this Mashiach argument, whether it's because they want to prove that the Lubavitcher Rebbe, alav shalom, he's Mashiach, where there's one guy that, I don't know how many phone numbers and emails he has, but apparently he finds a way to reach me in every way, shape, or form, sending me the same nonsensical article that he wrote, or he calls it a book, with the same video of some rabbi that says that it's possible what he says could be true, even though it's not plausible, it's possible, and he sends it as if this is an asmachta from the Rav Kanievsky and Chaverav. As if, oh yeah, the Lubavitcher Rebbe can be Mashiach, and all day he sends it around telling people, look, I proved that it's possible that the Rebbe is Mashiach, and all types of stuyot. This not only doesn't help him, it doesn't help any of his readers. It doesn't help anybody, this whole argument. But there are many people that's all they teach, that the Rebbe is Mashiach. And anyone that disagrees with them, ooh, wow. If they watch this part of the video, they'll probably start putting pictures of me and throwing darts at it. For them, this Rebbe being Mashiach is like one of the 13 principles of faith. It's number 14. These are sick people. These are sick people. Why? Because the Mashiach is an event that happens. It's not Judaism. It's something that happens. It's something that will happen. It's the culmination of this world. But there's a servitude of HaShem that's priority to it. There's a learning of Torah and doing mitzvot that's priority to it. Mashiach is not something that the sages focused their entire learning on. No sage in history ever did. But you have a whole movement that's all they talk about. Mashiach now, Mashiach now. And in the process, pacifying people to prepare for the Mashiach without preparing. Prepare for the Mashiach by maybe giving tzedakah, maybe saying Mashiach now, putting a bumper sticker on their car, but no talk of you should observe Shabbat, because if Mashiach comes right now, even if the Lubavitcher Rebbe comes and he's Mashiach and you're still desecrating Shabbat, he's going to kill you. They don't tell him any of that stuff. They don't tell them that if they continue living an immodest, immoral life, regardless of who the Mashiach is, they won't live to see the day. They won't see salvation. They'll see disaster. Because that's what it says. So the whole talk of Mashiach is so warped that even the good part is false. Then you have the other ones that are a complete extreme, telling you, okay, change everything. Move. Just doesn't really help people. Why? Because there's a servitude of HaShem. That's the priority. The same goes with people that learn or teach just for the sake of debating. They want to be the next Rabbi Tovia Singer. I can assure you, the Rabbi Tovia Singer, if you asked him, I want to learn Torah because I want to be like you. And Rabbi Tovia Singer is going to tell you, don't be like me. Why? There's no need for you to be like me. First, you have to be a Jew. A righteous Jew that knows Torah. And if HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants it, you'll also be able to do certain things. Whether it be fighting against idolatry or not, that should not be your priority. And Rabbi Singer famously says, I've heard it from him several times, where the greatest tool that you have in order to fight idolatry is not by studying the lectures and the videos against idolatry. That's not the best way to fight idolatry. Those videos are important to get people that are looking for the truth to have the truth available to them, and also an exposure of the lie available to them. Hence the reason why Rabbi Singers and anyone that's doing anywhere near as much work on this field as him, it's very important work, but that should not be your primary source of Torah learning. Your primary source of Torah learning needs to be Torah. And that's what Rabbi Singer teaches. If you want the greatest tool in the world to fight idolatry, become an expert in Torah. Not an expert in the mistakes that the idolatrous world of Christianity has. Not an expert in all the flaws they have. Rather be an expert in Torah. Know what our text says. Know what the authentic, the legit, the divine document, the love letter from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, know what that says. Because the better you know the Torah, the easier it is going to be for you to identify a fraud. And this, he says, he learned from one of his students that says that he's in the, works for the government, where they uncover fake money. And instead of what we would logically think, oh, in order to find fake money, you have to pretty much look for the signs that it's fake. But that's not the way. Rather, this person said, in order for us to become experts at uncovering fake money, we become experts in what real money looks like, what real dollars look like, where we know so much about the dollar and how it looks and how it feels and how thick it is, that the second something else shows up, we can identify it like that. And that's in essence what you're supposed to do. That's actually how you're supposed to study Torah Lishma, for heaven's sake. If you're studying Torah because you want to become a debater, you're not studying Torah for heaven's sake. You're studying Torah for an agenda. To be viewed as smart, to be viewed as right. But that's not the right way. And even Rabbi Tovia Singer himself would tell you, he didn't start out with a intention of becoming a world-renowned speaker and fighting against Christianity. He learned Torah. And eventually, the rest happened. So, when a person sees that somebody's being influenced by such people that are preaching Mashiach or whatever other form of craziness out there, one of the ways you could help these people is remind them that to serve Hashem, you have to learn Torah and follow Torah. And one of the examples that I could give you, that Gdolei Israel were not fans of this whole Mashiach now movement, even at its infancy, before it got as big as it is today. It's a very famous story about Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky, alav Shalom, the father of the Gdol Ador in America, Rav Shmuel Kamenetsky. His father, giant tzaddik, chacham, Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky. One time, there was a person came to the rabbi and said to him, "Rabbi, I've decided I'm going to start keeping Shabbat." The rabbi was very impressed. He goes, "Wow, what motivated you?" He says, "These guys from Chabad, they came to me and they told me the Mashiach is coming this year. So I said, you know what? I'm going to start keeping Shabbat." Yaakov Kamenetsky, without skipping a beat, told them, "Don't believe them." What? What do you mean, Rabbi? Don't believe them? Don't believe them the Mashiach's coming? He's not coming? Yaakov Kamenetsky says, don't believe them that that's the reason for you to keep Shabbat. Don't believe that the Mashiach is coming this year. He may come this year, but that is not a reason for you to keep Shabbat. You have to keep Shabbat because God obligated you to do so. There's a reward for keeping it and there's a punishment for not keeping it, with or without Mashiach. And if you keep it because you believe and you've been told that Mashiach is going to come this year, it's only a matter of time before you become a heretic that's against the Torah, specifically because you don't believe that Mashiach is going to come. How so? Because if your entire premise of keeping this mitzvah, or mitzvot in general, is because you believe Mashiach is going to come at a certain time, there were countless people before you that also believed, great people, tzaddikim, also believed that Mashiach is going to come. And he didn't come. But those great tzaddikim did not abandon Hashem because Mashiach didn't come. They continued serving Hashem because for them, whether Mashiach came or he didn't come, they still served Hashem for the right reason. If you're only serving Hashem because you believe Mashiach is going to come this year, and that's your whole religiosity and connection to Hashem is dependent on this thing that's supposed to happen in a certain time frame, it's only a matter of time before you abandon Hashem. And I remember there was about a year or two ago, a guy that I know from Los Angeles lost his mind completely, and started publicizing on his Facebook page, and he sent it to me also, a clock of Mashiach coming within, I think it was a matter of like a couple of weeks. And every day he would come out with new writings or video of himself talking about how he knows the Mashiach is coming at an exact date. And I tried talking to him. I knew the guy. I told him, you're making a mistake. What you're saying is forbidden. And the Rambam says you are cursed. Abandon your way. Erase these messages. No, Rabbi, you're mistaken. I can't believe you're saying this to me. I know Mashiach is coming on this date. All we got to do is believe. And lo and behold, every day he would come out with new messages, and you would have some people make comments, get excited, only to get disappointed. So when a person learns Torah and does mitzvot because Mashiach is the reason, it's only a matter of time before they abandon Hashem. If they learn Torah and do mitzvot in order for them to become an expert, world-renowned debater that destroys Christianity in no less charm than Rabbi Tovia Singer's ability has, it's only a matter of time before they abandon Torah. Whether it's because they lose a debate, or they don't get a crowd, or whatever the other reason is. when they're learning Torah with such an agenda, it's not good. Not only is it not lishma, it's not good. Because it's already putting a stumbling block in front of yourself. Now, one of the things that the Gaon Mivilna mentions here is that no one should think that they are too much, too great in order to learn all this musar, all of these things, but needless to say, no one should listen to the people that tell them that, okay, you want to learn more, you want to do more, that's fine, you're an adult, you could do for yourself, but your kids, they don't need to be as stringent as you, they're only little kids. Doesn't count for them anyway until the boy is 13 and the girl is 12, so if she's 6, 7 years old, so what if she wants to walk around with no arms and no legs? Doesn't count. So what if your kid wants to watch television and play video games? He's only 8, 9 years old. Doesn't count. The Gaon Mivilna says, Chas v'shalom, that words like that come out of your mouth with seriousness. Chas v'shalom, that you allow such words to enter your mind, even if they come to you from people that are important to you. Chas v'shalom, God forbid, that you consider such words to have an ounce of truth. Chas v'shalom. Why? If you teach your kids properly, when they're kids, you'll have a lot of joy from them when they grow up. As Rabbi Ephraim heard and recently taught me, the famous or well-known thought, he says that if you enjoy your kids, you'll have to discipline your grandkids. But if you discipline your kids, you'll have a lot of joy and nachat from your grandkids. Meaning that if what you're looking to do is have a good time with your kids, be friends with them, hang out with them, discipline, not so much. Kid cries, you pacify him. Here, take this. Never tell them what to do. You just want to have a good time with them. The wise men say that this is a mistake that you'll eventually have to correct, because when those kids grow up, they're also going to produce kids. And those kids are going to be completely off. And you'll have to work really hard to discipline those grandkids. Because instead of disciplining your kids, you were too focused on having fun with your kids. Like a lot of parents tell me, no, me and my daughter, we're best friends. Me and my son, we're best friends. And it's hard to break it to them that you're not supposed to be friends with your kids. You could be friendly with your kids, but not friends with your kids. And many parents are friends with their kids. And they realize the mistake. Even more so as their kids have kids. And those kids are not exactly good fruits. But if you focus on disciplining your kids when necessary, making sure that they get the right education both at home and in school, making sure that they're going in the right path, even if that means that they're going to cry a little bit, even if that means you have to punish them at times, even if that means you have to discipline them, instead of play with them. Tell them to go to their room, instead of, jumping on the bed with them. Surely everybody would like to jump on the bed and, do whatever it is that's fun, play with the ball. But sometimes the best thing you can do for your kid is send him to his room and tell him to go learn some books, and until he finishes, he's not allowed to play. And if you don't do that, and you only focus on enjoying your kids, you'll have a very hard time disciplining your grandkids. But if you do discipline your kids, you'll get a lot of joy and nachat from your grandkids, those fruits that your kids produce. Because you'll see that the fruits that they produced are just as good or even better. And you'll get a sense of relief that your job is achieved. But there's going to be people that tell you, no, it's too serious. And the Gaon Mivilna says, pay them no attention. But this is not just the Gaon Mivilna giving you friendly advice, but rather it's an halacha. The first halacha in the Shulchan Aruch, Orach Chaim, where it says, "Itgaber ke'ari la'amod b'boker la'avodat bor'o she'ireh u'me'orer ha'shachar." Person has to fight like a lion against his own nature in the morning. Go serve his Creator. Go serve his Creator. Surely there's going to be people, they're going to tell you, it's too much. And there's another halacha in the Shulchan Aruch. It says in your Avodat HaShem, disregard the naysayers. Disregard all of those people that tell you you're too fanatic. Go have fun instead. Come with us to the movies. Come with us to the pool. Come with us to this and come with us with that. Disregard all of those people. Why? You're here to serve HaShem. You're not here to enjoy your friends. And the people that focus on enjoying their friends, they're going to cry crocodile tears when they realize how little value that created for them in the real world. Especially when many times those very same friends and family that you're enjoying so much give you useless advice out of their ignorance. They have no concept of what Torah is, but they feel that they have the wisdom to tell you that your son doesn't need to study as much. Your daughter doesn't need to be as modest. They're just kids. You should allow your kids to hug your anybody that comes to your house. Yeah, so what if your daughter is 11 years old? She's still a little girl, so what if she hugs her uncle? What's the big deal? The big deal is that it's forbidden. That's the big deal. No, come on, she's only 11. I know. I'm your brother. I know. I'm your cousin. I'm your father. Don't listen to any of those people. Their advice is useless. I would like to say pointless, but it's not pointless. It's very much has a point to make you sin, to make you like them, a point that the Yetzirah, the Satan, the Malach HaMavet would very much like for you to believe and engrave into your heart, Chas v'Shalom. But it certainly is a point that's coming from ignorance. And they say it with so much zeal and so much confidence that you would swear that it's true. That your son maybe shouldn't study and your daughter shouldn't study. Study science and philosophy, not Torah. I mean, Torah is from a long time ago. It's enough what she already studies in school. She doesn't need to learn more Torah, especially from this so strict rabbi. Let her study gymnastics or ballet. Ignore all of them. In fact, if you're really strong, kick them out. Unless they learn how to shut their mouth and mind their business. Now, of course, people are going to make all types of accusations. That you're fanatic, that you're this. And you should know the Chachamim dealt with this also. One of the great Talmidim of the Baal Shem Tov, the Rabbi Elimelech Milizhinsk, who was the Talmid Muvak of the head Talmid of the Baal Shem Tov. Rabbi Elimelech Milzhinsk wrote in his commentary on Tehillim, on Psalm 106, verse 16, he says that the people that went against the sages and the great rabbis always made sure to go against, but not just go against, but rather to make accusations against these great sages and these great rabbis, these great tzaddikim, on their strong points. Where they went against Moshe Rabbeinu for being in the Bet Midrash learning too much Torah and not with the people. You're not friendly. There's no camaraderie with you, Moshe. It's all Torah, Torah, Torah with you. Hang out with the people. And then to Aaron HaKohen, who was a lot more with the people, they will tell Aaron HaKohen, "Oh, Aaron, you're too much with the people. When are you going to learn Torah? What kind of rabbi are you? What kind of Kohen Gadol are you? You're too much with the people all day, trying to make peace among people. You don't even learn any Torah." That's how the naysayers work. They go against you on your strong points. The accusations is on your strong points. Moshe Rabbeinu, they said, he's an adulterer. He is trying to steal our women. He is also a thief. He's taking our money. Also two strong points of his. The only man that HaKadosh Baruch Hu told him that he has to leave his wife. The purest man that ever lived. Moshe Rabbeinu. They accused him as being a womanizer. He says to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, even for the donkey that I used to go to Egypt, to be the messenger that you used to bring them out, they didn't pay me for that donkey. And what they accuse Moshe Rabbeinu, you're a thief. All of the strong points they went against. And it's not just Moshe Rabbeinu, that's just the examples. Same thing with Aaron, same thing with all of the great sages, all of the righteous people. When people went against them, they went against them against their strong points. Somebody's going against you and you know that you're strong there, that's a good sign. So the Gaon of Vilna says that people are going to come to you and tell you, listen, since you are already learning Torah, sure, your kid's going to follow suit. Just give him time. He's still young now. He's only 5 years old. He's only 8 years old. Let him have fun for the next few years. He doesn't have to learn. Whatever, let him play all day. Your daughter, listen, she'll be like her mom. She'll be tzadikah. The mother is tzadikah. She's a rabbanit. So surely the daughter is going to be a rabbanit one day, marry some big scholar. So she can hang out today and go play in the playground till 8 o'clock at night and walk around like everybody else, befriend whoever. Do not listen to those people. You have to keep your family protected. Only allow certain people inside and very few. Quite frankly, almost no one. And on the way out, monitor everything, all the interactions. Why? That's your job in the world. It's part of your servitude of HaShem. Monitor your family. Don't let your kids play with everybody, and don't let everybody come into the house. All of the horrific stories of adultery that come to me, or to other rabbis that deal with this horrible, horrible situation. Where do you think adultery comes from? The worst places in the world. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. I let her sleep at my house for 3 weeks. The next thing I found out, she's stealing my husband. I don't understand. She was my best friend growing up. How could she do this? He's a married man with 5 kids. You're an idiot for allowing a single woman to sleep in your house. I'm sorry to tell you. Now, you don't tell them to that. You tell it to people on a lecture. So in case they're doing it, they find that person a hotel tomorrow. Same thing with guys. Can't believe it. My wife wants a divorce. Why? What happened? she fell in love with my best friend. What? Your best friend? How does she even know your best friend? He used to come to my house a few times a week. We'd have, hang out, drink a beer or two. Oh, so you did it. No, I didn't do it. I was just hanging out with my best friend. No, you did it. Who said you have permission to bring guys to your house and hang out in your house on a regular basis? Who said you have permission to do it? Which scholar did that? Which tzaddik in history did that? Who did it? Who brought people into his house to go hang out with his wife and his there on a regular basis having beers? Who did it? Who did it? Oh no, we used to have them over for every Shabbat. You have single guys, same single guys, coming to your house every Shabbat? Why? What? They're single guys. They need to have a place. Okay, so let them find a different place too. Once in a while, okay, fine, but regular. Why? What? You don't think that guy thinks? You don't think other people think? Before you know it, they talk. Come on, you're fanatic. Okay, I'm fanatic. Baruch HaShem, I'm married for 20 years. You're divorced 3 times. I'd rather be fanatic. The reality is, Rabotai, is that people make stupid mistakes, and they tell the people that are not making a mistake that they're making a mistake. Why? Because of arrogance. It's important to know that you have a job as a mother of a household, as a father of a household, to protect the household. Protecting the household doesn't just mean having a house to live in. Protecting a household means you have to keep everyone in there according to what their needs. And that's where the Gaon Vilna says next that if you teach them while they're still unripe, as they grow up, it'll be much easier for them. It'll be much easier for them. But if you wait until there's some scars, it'd be much more difficult. Many times, parents don't want to teach their kids, punish their kids, discipline their kids, and they end up surprised. Their kids turn into gangsters. How so? If every time your kid cries, you give him something or you give her something, whether you like it or not, you're teaching that kid something. What are you teaching them? The squeaky wheel gets the oil. You're the wheel. He's squeaking. And that's how he gets what he wants. Now, when it's a 4, 5, 6, 7-year-old, doesn't seem so bad. But if you have a son that all he has to do is make a scene in the supermarket, start laying on the floor in the supermarket, scream, curse, whatever, and you're going to give him whatever he wants, you are creating a gangster that one day will be one of those people that will go to the stores and say, hey, how are you? You like it over here? Fine. Okay, just make sure that on the 1st of every month, you got my check. Check for what? What are you talking about? Oh, my check. What do you mean? What are you playing stupid? No, I don't know who you are. Yo, you don't know who I am? Okay, so you'll know who I am. On the 1st of every month, I want to check $3,000. Why? What, you own the place? What do you mean? I'm partners with you. Partners? I don't even know your name. You don't need to know my name, but I'm partners with you. Because, of course, you don't want your place to go up in fire, right? You don't, I mean, you want somebody to protect your place from, from blowing up, right? So that's what I'm doing for you. And guess what? This may not necessarily be as common in America, but it is very common in Israel. It is very common in other countries where these gangsters, they simply walk into different places and they simply say, if you don't do what my parents did and pacify me, I'm going to torture you. Now again, many will say this is extreme. You can say whatever you want. The reality is, there's a time to play and there's a time to discipline. And if a person avoids disciplining his children, he's creating monsters. And of course, discipline comes with a certain wisdom to it. As the Gaon Vilna says, you have to teach him in accordance to his ways. What is in accordance to his ways? So this has been elaborated on by the sages over the years in many, many Sfarim. In many, many Sfarim. And we're going to go through it a little bit because this comes from Proverbs, where it says, Chanoch lanar al pi darko, that train your youth according to his way. And then the rest of the verse says, even when he grows old, he will not swerve from it. So, Chachamim say, one way to understand it is that the Chanoch, that you have to inaugurate the take the passions that your son or daughter has, that they gravitate towards, and channel them in the right way. Don't force your kid into the place you want him to be just the way you would do it for yourself. You have to get him to where you want him to be the way that fits with what he is inclined to do. Meaning, you want your son to be a righteous person that observes Torah, observes mitzvot, and so on. Fine, no problem. Your son likes music. Your son likes, all types of jumping. He likes animals. Now, if you tell him, listen, you have to be like Rav Kanievsky, you have to be like the disciple of Gaon, you can't talk about animals anymore. Rav Kanievsky doesn't talk about animals. You can't talk about animals. You can't jump around. Rav Kanievsky doesn't jump around. You have to be like him. That's a mistake. Why? You have to fit your kid into the right path through his passions. So although you yourself care less for animals or jumping up and down, maybe because of your age, maybe because of other reasons, if your kid gravitates towards that, you have to utilize that. So how? Oh, you like animals? Let's see where we have animals in the Torah. There's no shortage of places where animals are discussed in the Torah. You have teachings of kosher animals versus non-kosher animals. You could already teach your kid the difference between kosher animals and non-kosher animals when he's already little. Something that many adults don't know. The kosher animals have two signs. They chew their cud. They have split hooves. But there's also some animals that have no signs. That's the majority of animals. And some animals have only one sign, which is 4 animals. And you could give your kid already tests. What's kosher, what's not kosher as a little kid. And that way he's enjoying himself by learning about animals. And you're enjoying yourself that he's learning Torah. Or you could tell him different stories of animals in the Torah. Do you know that Benjamin, he turned into a werewolf? And also Yehuda, his logo was a lion. And Yosef, his flag was a bull. And you can tell him the story of the great phoenix. The phoenix, the bird that was blessed by Noach, the Gemara says. Noach saw that this bird that he saved had good demeanor to it, where everybody, all the other animals were eating and she wasn't eating. And Noach says to her, why aren't you eating? And the bird says, you're not hungry? She says, no, I'm hungry, but I saw that you're busy. I didn't want to bother you. Noach gave her a blessing. The tzaddik gave her a blessing. And this is a bird that never dies. Every 1,000 years, it burns up and is reborn. Something unbelievable. A blessing from a tzaddik like Noach. So that's a story that your kid's going to like. And there are endless other stories. But if you force your kid to abandon animals, then guess what? He's not going to want Torah either. Because he's going to view the Torah as something that takes away the things he likes. Further, the Klosenberger Rebbe says, in regards to teaching the kid according to his way, al pi darko, the Klosenberger Rebbe says that homiletically, darko also is interpreted to the parent's own path. Meaning that the parent itself has to learn from this verse that if you want your kid to get to a certain place, you have to be there too. Meaning, don't tell your kid not to be an angry child, or not to be a stingy child, or not to be a nasty child if you yourself are nasty. If you yourself are angry. If you're an angry person, your kid has all of the justification in the world to also be angry and even more angry. If you are a stingy, nasty person, you cannot be upset that your kid thinks that it's a good to be nasty and stingy, and he doesn't want to share with anybody. So wherever you want your kids to go, make sure you're already there. And at the very least, you're striding to be there, and your kid is watching you and seeing you stride to be there. Don't tell your kid they need to be the biggest rabbi in the world, and you barely learned Torah. Don't tell your kid you have to be a Rebbitzin, and you're walking around with a wig longer than the exile. You have to lead by example. Now, before this particular section, this verse about educating the child, the Shlomo HaMelech says in the preceding verse, in verse 3, that a shrewd person sees evil and hides. But fools, simpletons, pass on and are punished. So, first you have a shrewd person sees evil and hides, but fools or simpletons pass on and punished. And then later it says, train your youth according to his way. So, what's the connection here? The Gaon Vilna says that in this verse, the shrewd person sees evil and hides. Shlomo HaMelech is teaching us that part of our teaching is our own behavior, and we have to avoid bad influences and stay away from heretics, scorners, because a thoughtless person who associates with such people will end up suffering their fate even if he himself remains righteous. Because the Gemara in Masechet Bava Kama, page 60a, says that when there's a heavenly decree, even the righteous people may suffer with the wicked. How could this be? How could the righteous people suffer with the wicked? If the righteous person is constantly socializing with wicked people, he is subjecting himself to danger. Yeah, but he's righteous. Yes, you're righteous, but you have enough merit to have special treatment. Where do we learn this from? Moshe Rabbeinu, Parashat Korach. He says to Am Yisrael, stay away from these evil people, lest you be destroyed with them. Now, he wasn't calling the other people evil. He was saying, stay away from these evil people, from Korach, Datan, Aviram, all of the people that are going against. Stay away from them, because they're going to get punished, and whoever is associating with them will go down with them. So sometimes a person thinks that he's doing a service to society by socializing on a friendly basis with a lot of wicked people, and they don't realize how much they're endangering themselves, and needless to say, how much they're endangering their family. Many times you see that people have their people close to them, their kids, go off. And everybody's surprised. How did my kid that went to a yeshiva, the father was frum, the brothers were frum, but the kid left. And then they find out that the inspiration that kid got to go become, I don't know, some gymnast or some whatever other thing that is not exactly ideal for a Jew. He wants to go become some dancer. Instead of becoming a rabbi, instead of becoming an avrech, instead of becoming a tzaddik, he wants to become a dancer in clubs. How? Remember that one time that you brought your long-lost cousin, or your long-lost brother, or your long-lost friend from childhood, and he was a dancer, or he liked dancing, or he liked gymnastics? Well, that was just enough inspiration to destroy your kid forever. So don't think that you can bring anything you want next to your kids and your family and your wife and your husband, and everybody is going to be unaffected because you learned Torah and you're already frum. Don't live such an imaginary life. Needless to say, don't think that if you bring some woman, young or old, to your house, that thoughts are not going to enter your husband's mind. Don't think that your husband is Baba Sali. Don't think that your husband is a Rav Kanievsky. You continue bringing your girlfriends and your cousins to the house, especially the single ones that like to talk about their private life. They like to talk about all the dates. They like to talk about all of the wonderful compliments they get at work and on the way to work. You keep bringing those people to your house, you're going to be in the Bet Din very soon with a get in your hand, either giving it or getting it. Why? You are enticing your husband. And you, Mr. Husband, that likes to hang out with his friends and have a beer 2-3 times a week at your house, or even once a week, and you bring in your friends, and your wife is hanging out with your friends, unlike Sarah Imenu, that the angels did not even know where she was because she wasn't sitting down with them. And they had to ask Avraham, where is your wife? To remind him of, look how modest your wife is, that she's not hanging out with the guys. To teach us, it's not a business of a woman to hang out with guys. No, but we're discussing Torah. The girls discuss with the girls, and the boys discuss with the boys. Now, of course, at times you have dinner, you discuss a few things, that's fine. But when you start making a thing out of it, and it's not just over Shabbat, it's on a regular basis, and it's not just Torah, it's also maybe a little bit of shows, and a little bit of this, and a little bit of that. You start bringing all your boys over, and your boys become comfortable with your wife. They may even exchange a few text messages with her, because just in case you're not home, or just in case this, they need to know who to contact, and you give your wife's phone number, or your wife is stupid enough to give her phone number to different guys. Just make sure that you know that at some point your marriage is going to end. Why? Because that's how it happens. No, it's not going to happen to me. Yeah, it's the same exact. You know what? Wow, it's a prophecy. It's the same exact thing every one of those guys at the Bet Din said. You didn't think it was going to happen. It's the same thing. There's a reason why the Torah world expects certain things, says certain things. There's a reason for it. It's in order to protect the Jewish house. Because the sages learned the Kedusha to the highest level, but at the same token, they learned the Tum'ah to the highest level. They know the flaws of man. They know the power of the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination. They know that there's no en apotropos la'arayot. No one is above the issues of immorality. Not your kids or your spouses, no one. And anyone that is arrogant enough to think that they are not subject to these risks is, unfortunately, probably already a victim to them. And many times, parents call me, or the kids call me, or message me more likely, telling me, we have an addiction to immorality in the household. We don't know where it came from. Well, you don't know where it came from. That's interesting, but, it's also interesting that no one ever taught the kid about how to deal with immorality. No one ever told them the magnitude of the sin and how much of the punishment is for immorality and wasting seed and so on. So you have a whole generation of people that have ignored the topic, have ignored reality, thinking that if you don't talk about it, then it's simply not going to exist. If only that was true. So the Gaon Mivilna says that the shrewd person sees the evil and hides, means that a person that's thoughtless associates with such people and puts himself and others at risk. Furthermore, the Al-Shich HaKadosh says that this is also referring to the mazal of a person, the predestined fortune of a person, where even though a person has a certain mazal, a certain predestined fortune, and also certain abilities or things that they yearn towards, only their yirat shamayim, their fear of the Almighty, will be the steering wheel that will navigate how they will channel that mazal and those inner skills and abilities. If there is no fear in the house, the connection to blood that the person have can end up turning him into a murderer. If there is fear of God, he could turn into a doctor, a butcher, or all types of other, a cook, a chef, a moel. No fear of heaven, he can become a gangster. With fear of heaven, can become someone that saves lives. Certain fortune that a person has, mazal, Hashem decides this person is going to have wealth. With fear of heaven, this person can be a gvil that funds extraordinary organizations like BeEzrat HaShem and Art Scroll and other wonderful Torah organizations that are looking to publicize the truth to the world. He's using the blessing that Hashem gave him to do good. No yirat shamayim, no fear of heaven. He becomes like one of these losers that runs casinos and prostitution houses with billions of dollars, and once in a while pacifies his conscience by giving some money to rabbis and Jewish organizations, as if that makes all of the prostitution and the gambling okay. So the Al-Shich HaKadosh says that the mazal that's predestined fortune, although there are many factors in a person's nature that are inborn, it is his choice to channel them for good or evil. As we learned from the Gemara in Masechet Shabbat, page 156a, that if a person is fated to spill blood, he can choose to be a moel or a surgeon. And the shrewd man senses his instinct for evil and conceals it by channeling it towards the good, while the simpleton does not do so. And therefore he cannot claim that he had no control over his behavior, because he did. Oh, I had an inclination for guys since I was a young boy. That does not mean you need to practice homosexuality. It just means you need to find a more masculine wife. Oh, I think I'm a boy in a girl's body. No, just means that you perhaps are a little bit more masculine than the typical female, and you need to find a more feminine man. Simple. There are certain things that you're born with. There are certain things that are imaginary. There are certain things that you're predestined to have, and there are certain things that you are supposed to overcome. Either way, you always have free choice. And anyone that says that God made you this way, and therefore you have to sin, God programmed you to sin, is an apikos and an evil person. Because no God that loves his people, no father that loves his people would do such a thing. God gave you tests because he knows you could overcome them. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave you certain things in order for you to overcome them, not for you to justify your sins. Now, Chachamim ask, how come when it talks about shrewd person sees evil and hides, but simpletons pass on and are punished? Why is a shrewd person singular, but when it's simpletons, it's plural? So, Arav Kil says because the reality is, anyone can see this with enough experience, that the majority of people are fools. And as far as shrewd people, righteous people, they're fewer. And therefore, this is also one of the lessons within the lesson, that you being a shrewd, a righteous person also means that you're going to be on your own path. Don't expect for you to have a whole following of all of your high school graduating class going with you. It's not reality. What's more likely reality is that you will be alone on your path to righteousness. And those graduating class may try to pull you back to join them in their wickedness. That's what's more likely. Now, the question is, what's the connection between this shrewd person seeing evil and hides and the fool gets punished, and then the teachings, teach your kid according to his way? What connects the two? The verse that's between the two of them. Verse number 4. Shlomo HaMelech says, Ekev anava yirat Adonai, osher vekavod v'chaim. That the result of humility is fear of HaShem, wealth, honor, and life. Shlomo HaMelech says that this shrewd person that hides from the evil, he didn't just become shrewd because he was born that way. It's because of choices that he chose. The simpleton didn't just become a simpleton. He chose certain things. And therefore, when a person chooses that he wants to go in the path of, righteousness, he needs to know that the result of humility is fear of HaShem. Wealth, honor, and life. And the Chachamim explain that when a person recognizes his own insignificance before HaKadosh Baruch Hu, immediately he's overcome by fear. Says the Ralbag. And therefore, make sure not to sin. Says the Korban HaEdah. And what causes him to sin, says the Siftei Chaim, is his arrogance. That's what causes him to sin. That he doesn't need to be a shrewd person all the time. He doesn't need to be righteous all the time. He could be like everybody else once in a while. That's what actually turns him from a shrewd person into a simpleton. Because if he was truly on the path of being a righteous person, he would humble himself, realizing what Rav Saadia Gaon says, that the humility, the definition of it, is that a person understands that they're here to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and they become subservient to what they're commanded to do. And such a person acquires a fear that causes them to be a fear of HaShem, that causes them to be afraid of actually making sins. Rabbi Yonah says that if you do all of this, if you choose the path of the shrewd person, the righteous person, and you work on your subservience, you work on your humility, the rest of the verse says you're assured wealth, honor, and life. These are the rewards that Hashem grants the righteous. Because when a person fears Hashem, he conducts his business honestly, and the consequence of that is that he grows wealthy and leads a life of tranquility and honor. Because the humble person makes few demands of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and requires very little, and therefore his life will be free of worry and end up having less disappointments. So, if a person wants to have such a blessing, it's not a sgula that if you buy this or if you read this, all will work out. Or if you move here, all will be fixed. But rather it is a process of self-evaluation in order to peel off the layers of the onion that are unnecessary and even harmful, and allow the beauty of your neshama to be something that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is constantly seeing from you. But this requires, says Rabbeinu Eliyahu Lepian, in the name of the Saba Mekel, says that this requires a constant self-evaluation and self-improvement. Just evaluating ourselves and saying, oh, I'm bad, is not good. You have to see where you stand and make an action plan to fix it. And if you do that, you'll be able to do it with your kids. And if the children are trained to think about their behavior, they'll be able to continue evaluating their deeds and improve them for the rest of their lives. Agreeing with what the Kozenberger Rabbi said, which is that leading by example. Now, the last thing that the Gaon Vilna mentioned is that if a person does this, he'll get extraordinary blessings. And he brings Rabbi Meir Baal HaNes. And this is what Rabbi Meir Baal HaNes says in the Mishnah in Avot in chapter 6, Mishnah number 1. Whoever engages in Torah study for its own sake merits many things. And furthermore, the creation of the entire world is worthwhile for his sake. He's called a friend, a beloved. He loves the omnipresent. He loves his creatures. He gladdens the omnipresent. He gladdens his creatures. The Torah clothes them with humility and fear of God. The Torah makes him fit to be a tzaddik, to be a chassid, to be a yashar, a fair person, to be a ne'eman, which is faithful. The Torah moves him away from sin and draws him near to merit. And from him people enjoy counsel and wisdom, understanding and strength. And it is said about him in Proverbs chapter 8, verse 14, mine are counsel and wisdom, I am understanding, mine is strength. And the Torah gives him kingship and dominion and analytical judgment. The secrets of the Torah are revealed to him. He becomes a steadily strengthening fountain and like an unceasing river. He becomes modest, patient, forgiving of insult to himself, not to HaShem. Somebody insults him, he's okay with it. But if somebody insults HaShem, they have something coming to them. That was my addition. And the Torah makes him great and exalts him above all things. Then Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi in his next Mishnah says that every single day a heavenly voice emanates from Mount Chorev, which is another name for Mount Sinai, proclaiming, woe to them, to the people, because their insult to the Torah. Whoever does not occupy himself with Torah is called rebuked. Nazuf in Hebrew. Nazuf is like they're put on a nidui in heaven. As it is said, like a golden ring in a swine's snout is a beautiful woman who turns away from good judgment. This is from Proverbs 11:22. And he continues and says in the verse in Exodus 32:16 says, the tablets are God's handiwork, and the script was God's script. Charut was engraved on the tablets. But don't read the word charut as engraved, but rather cherut. It's the same exact letters, just different vowels. Cherut, in order to learn, for you have no freer man. Cherut means freedom. For you have no freer man than man who's engaged in the study of Torah. And anyone who engages in Torah for the sake of Torah becomes elevated. As it is said in Numbers, from Matanot to Nachliel, from Nachliel to Bamot. He uses the words saying Matana from present to Nacha to having peace, from Nacha to Bamot. Hashem is going to lift them even higher. The point is that a person that makes the difficult choice of going against the tide of normal society, hanging out with friends and going to all types of places, and instead learns Torah, teaches himself, his family, make sure that his family follows suit, make sure our family follows suit, everybody on the same page. Utilize everyone's skills in order to elevate them higher. Don't force every round into a square hole and every square into a round hole. Use whatever talents and skills they have in order to connect them to the Torah. Lead by example. All of this is extremely difficult, but will lead you to success beyond your dreams. On the other hand, not doing it seems much easier, but will end up with endless difficulty. And that's really the biggest thing. When a person looks at the ultimate purpose and the ultimate goal, the Torah suddenly becomes not just easy, it becomes the only choice. When a person looks at relaxing, enjoying, then all of a sudden the Torah becomes a burden. Chas v'shalom. If you love your kids, you'll teach them Torah as the number one most important thing in their life, to lead their path, but not just teach them, but also teach by example. And the Rambam writes in the Halacha, in Ilchot Talmud Torah, in chapter 3, the third Halacha, that there's no other commandment outweighs the study of Torah. Rather, the study of Torah excels all the other commandments, because studying Torah leads to practice, and therefore studying Torah always takes precedence over practice. as man is first judged on his studying Torah, and only afterwards on the rest of his practice. How did the Chachamim choose these sayings in chapter 6 of the Masechet Avot? These were beretot. Beretot with different teachings that were not included in the Mishnah, but were also very critical parts of the oral Torah. Now this particular 6th chapter starts with a teachings of the sages taught this chapter in the language of the Mishnah, saying, blessed is he who chose them and their teachings, to teach us that it's not just that they were blessed for all the good that they did, but also that HaShem chose them because of the things that they did. Meaning there are many people that learn Torah, but not necessarily everybody will be elevated to fame and to teach and to success. The sages of the Talmud, the sages of Masechet Avot specifically, were chosen because of how they behaved, not just because of how much they knew and how smart they were. Because they exemplified their teachings, which is in essence what we are supposed to do as parents, what we are supposed to do as leaders, what we are supposed to do as a people. Lead by example. And there are going to be certain people that tell you, listen, I have my own relationship with God and He loves me no matter what. Not necessarily true. Why? Shlomo HaMelech, who's much smarter than you, says in the name of HaShem in Proverbs chapter 8 verse 17, I love those who love me. That's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu says. And where did Shlomo HaMelech get this? From his father, David HaMelech. Psalm 139 verse 17, where David HaMelech says, to me, how precious are your dear ones, O God. Me, who are these dear ones? Dear ones are those that learn Torah. He calls them friends. Further, Shlomo HaMelech says in Proverbs 10:25, Tzaddik Yasod Olam, that the tzaddik, the righteous man, is the foundation of the world. So, Rabbi Chaim Volozhin says, how do you get to that point where you fall in love with Torah to the point that you're willing to change your life? First and foremost, start. Start learning and make it part of your everyday. And as his Nefesh Chaim, he says, the more you learn Torah, the more you want to learn. Meaning you're not going to want to learn a lot on day one. Whatever you can get it. But the more you learn, the more you're going to want to learn. Because the Torah turns into a potion of life, a drug of life. And if he does this, he'll end up being one of the people that are glad in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What does it mean, glad in HaKadosh Baruch Hu? HaKadosh Baruch Hu has he needs you to make him happy? What, he is going to go to a psychiatrist for counseling if you don't do it? No. Gladdening HaKadosh Baruch Hu means that a person, if he has kids, or at least a close relationship to his parents, he knows what it means for a parent to be happy with their kid. Now, if the kid is doing the right thing, the parent is glad, meaning they have nachat, peace of mind, mission accomplished. Why? Not because the kid doing the right thing benefits the parent in any way, but rather because, this is going in the right path. I don't have to worry about dangerous places that they go, or dangerous people that they would be around, or surprise and phone calls in the middle of the night. I don't have to worry about those things. They're going in the right path. That gives nachat to a parent. Needless to say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that he sees when his kids are learning Torah, he is gladdened, just like our Father in heaven is gladdened because he sees that we're going in the right direction. And he knows that due to this right direction of the Torah, all will be well with us. And a person that puts himself in such a position to be someone that brings gladness to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, nachat to HaShem, is certainly fit to become a tzaddik, certainly fit to become a real chassid, certainly is a fair and faithful person, and people will want to get advice from him or her. But that does not mean that their path will be easy. Because as it says here in the same Mishnah, they'll be forgiving of insult to himself. If he's so righteous and Hashem loves him so much, why does he have to worry about insult? Because there will always be naysayers, there will always be wicked people that will attack the righteous. That is one of the tools that Hashem has in this world to test us, to elevate us. Moshe Rabbeinu was tested with this. Moshe Rabbeinu had enemies. So you're not going to have enemies? Moshe Rabbeinu, Kodesh Kodeshim, was accused of the worst things in the world when he was the best at those things. He was the most humble person on earth, accused of arrogance. Most kosher person when it came to money, accused of stealing. Purest person on planet earth, accused of adultery. When people insulted Moshe Rabbeinu did not take it to heart. But the second they went against God, they lost their right to live. That's the path of the righteous. Don't expect the path of the righteous to be smooth at all times. There will be bumps, there will be wars. But remember, we don't fight our wars for our sake. We only fight for Hashem. When a person looks at things from that perspective, it becomes much, much easier to start living that perspective and thereby being an example to your children to also want that. Because the kids, they look up to their parents. They want to dress like the parents, they want to act like the parents, they want to look like the parents. So the more the parents listen to the voice screaming from Mount Chorev, saying woe to those people that don't learn Torah, and act upon that, the more the kids are going to also be able to hear that same voice and act upon it. BeEzrat Hashem, this will give people enough insight to be a model for their friends and also their families and their children. But to answer our trivia question that we asked before, or at least the hint that I gave you in the beginning, is what does all of this have to do with the reason behind us having costumes for Purim? What's the reason? Now, some people are going to say because first we were in bad shape, then we were in good shape. In the commentary, the Doresh Tov commentary, by our own very dear Rabbi Chaim, the commentary on Megillat Esther, Rabbi Chaim brings 26 ta'amim, Gimatria HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Yud Kei Vav Kei, 26 ta'amim of why we wear costumes. It's not a biblical or even a rabbinical obligation. But it's already a well-known custom that we do. Wear costumes. As long as they're modest costumes, you can wear a costume. Some say even the Rama. The Rama used to wear a costume. So, some do. But the question is, where does it come from? Some say it's because of the Mordechai exchanging clothes with the having the king's clothes, and then Haman having Mordechai's clothes, and that made Haman's daughter spill her waist on him and then commit suicide, Baruch Hashem. Some say that, the fortunes changed. But one of the things that stood out is that there is a reason that's mentioned in the Doresh Tov. And it says that it's based on the verse in Megillat Esther, a verse in Megillat Esther that says, "V'rabim me'amei haaretz mityadim," that after Haman was killed and there was much joy to Am Yisrael, there was a fear that fell upon the nations, and it says many of them became Jews, many of the nations. So some Chachamim say that these nations got so scared of the Jews that they started dressing up like Jews, putting costumes on, and from there is the costume of wearing costumes after those people that pretended to be Jews. Now, if this was it wouldn't really connect anything to what we're saying. But b'siyata d'ishmaya, I found an extraordinary commentary by none other than our own very dear Gaon Mivilna that we're reading is IGGERET. And the Gaon Mivilna writes on his commentary on the Megillah, on that verse, where it says that many from among the people of the land professed themselves as Jews, for the fear of the Jews had fallen upon them. The Gaon Mivilna says that many of these people came to convert to Judaism, but they were fake converts. They weren't looking to adopt the life of Torah. They were just looking to be viewed as Jews for different reasons. They wanted to become Jews because they wanted to marry somebody that's a Jew. They wanted to become Jews because they wanted to do business with Jews. They wanted to become Jews because they thought that if they become a Jew, they become smarter. And this actually is something I've seen. Somebody actually wanted to convert because he thought that you become smarter. People get motivated by all types of wrong reasons. And unfortunately, there are wicked people that enable them. Recently, I met somebody that said that their next door neighbor is one of Meza's converts. They live in the middle of nowhere, and their next door neighbor, the whole family converted. Online, they dipped in their backyard river. They cook on Shabbat and watch movies after the conversion. Why would such a person convert? Whatever the reason is, surely we know it's not a real reason. And we also heard that there is somebody out there, and we won't mention the name yet, hopefully they'll get the message, that is using fraudulent papers to give people and tell them they're converts. Using fraudulent papers and a signature of a rabbi that died, telling people you can use this to make aliyah to Israel and tell people that you converted through this rabbi 10 years ago. And I'm yavin that if you don't stop, you're going to end up in jail. I promise. In this world and the next. The Gaon Mivilna says that these shakranim, these liars, that pretended that they wanted to be Jews are the reason why we wear costumes on Purim. Because we've always had liars among us. First, we have to realize that in order to identify the liar, we ourselves have to make sure that we are honest. We ourselves have to become purified and observant of the Torah. Don't worry about their lies anywhere near as much as you worry about your truth. Because the more you have truth, the more apparent their lies will become. This is how a person needs to live their life, educate their children, and build their household with HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the lead. The Torah is the only instruction book and manual that you go by. And the sages, they are your heroes. Baruch Adonai Leolam. Amen v'amen. There's going to be a new campaign, BeEzrat HaShem, to continue helping the poor. I already sent some money today to help a bunch of people, Baruch Hashem, in Tel Zion, and we have quite a few people in Eretz Yisrael that need help, Avrechim, different special Jewish neshamot that simply cannot make it through the month on a regular basis, needless to say, during the holidays. Each year we do several campaigns specifically to help the poor. Now more than ever we need your help because for a few reasons. Number one, it's the cost of everything. Anyone that follows Israeli news, the cost of everything in Israel has skyrocketed to the point where people are refraining from buying things like soda and yogurt and a lot of different goods that simply have become unaffordable. Vegetables have skyrocketed. Now more than ever we need your help.